everyone, Wendy Taylor here, and excited to be with you one more evening. We usually get together Thursday evenings about 7:30, and tonight I want to talk to you about weakness to strength. And I believe that the main reason that most people are not successful and don't accomplish great things in their life is because they are afraid of failure. They're just afraid that they're just not going to be able to do what they started out to do, or that they're going to look foolish in front of people. You know, the right to fail is as important as the right to succeed. None of us like to fail. We all want to succeed the first time, but you know, it is impossible to succeed without some failures along the way. Suffering and failure come right along with succeeding. I want to read you a little bit about a man that I've admired, and his name is Abraham Lincoln. I know we've all heard that name before. This is a biography of a failure. He had a difficult childhood. He had less than 1 year of formal schooling. Could you imagine? Less than 1 year of schooling. He failed in business in 1831. He was defeated for the legislature in 1932. Again, failed in business in 33. I'm sorry, not in 1932, 1832. Failed in business in 33. Elected to legislature in 34. His fiance died in 35. Defeated for speaker in 38. Defeated for elector in 40. Married his wife, a new wife, but she was a great burden for him, to him. It was a very difficult marriage, and that was in 42. Only one of his 4 sons lived past the age of 18 years old. He was defeated for Congress in 43, elected to Congress in 46, defeated for Congress in 48, defeated for the Senate in 55, defeated for Vice President in 56, defeated for Senate in 58, and elected for President in 1860. Wow, that is amazing. I don't know how about you, but many of us would have given up a long time before he finally was elected president. We would have just given up after that many failures. But you know, when we hang in there and we start finding out who is the source of our strength and start relying on him, it is amazing what can happen. I'm going to read you something from the Bible, 2 Corinthians 12, 9 and 10, if you have your Bible and you want to look this up later. First, 2 Corinthians 12, 9 and 10. And he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. You see, the thing is that many of us, when we are feeling weakness, we're ready to run and give up. Instead, it's a time to rejoice. If we are a born-again Christian and we've accepted Jesus, we have a supernatural strength that lives within us. And Christ is often waiting for us to run out of our own strength, give up on our own dreams, give up on our own ideas and everything that we think is important, and just give it all up to him. And something miraculous happens. What happens is that God becomes our strength, and his strength that he pours into us is so much greater than any strength that you or I could muster up. So therefore, when we are weak, we should be rejoicing, because that means that God's strength is going to come pouring through us, and we are going to be able to do things that in our own strength we never would be able to do. I want to tell you a little story of something that happened to me. I was speaking in Grand Rapids a few years ago, in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I was with a friend, and we stayed at the telephone hostess's house for night. I was going to be speaking at the Christian Women's Club in Grand Rapids, so we stayed at her place for night. The next morning it was snowing terribly, and the weather forecast came on and said, do not venture out on the highways because it is extremely dangerous out there. Well, she said to me, Wendy, why don't we all drive in one car, because it's just too dangerous driving. And without even thinking or realizing why I said it, I said to her, you know, I think I'll drive and I'll follow you there. Now, when I look back, I'm thinking, that is so not like me. I would have been glad to go with another driver, but I did, and I know now that it was God that prompted me that way. Well, we started venturing out to the meeting, and on our way, it was a very busy highway, like a 401, and there were 3 or 4 lanes of traffic all going one way. And all of a sudden, a truck lost control and started heading towards my friend who was driving ahead of us. Next thing we know, the truck hit her head-on collision. Her car started spinning around and landed in the ditch on the side. We pulled in beside her, of course, ran over to the car. Meanwhile, all the traffic was coming to a screeching halt. Before we knew it, there were policemen, firemen, ambulances, and then a helicopter that showed up. And she had been twisted into the back seat because she had bucket seats. She had been sitting in the driver's seat, and all of a sudden her body went in between the bucket seats and her head was on the back seat. She was semi-conscious. We tried to talk to her, and as we looked in the car, there we saw the motor of her car sitting on the bucket seat next to her. And all of a sudden I realized that that's where I would have been sitting if I had gone with her on this drive to the meeting. Well, needless to say, we were shook up. We didn't know if she was going to survive. I called the meeting where we were going, and I said, your telephone hostess has been in a terrible accident, and we don't know right now the outcome of it, but please pray. And meanwhile, we told the police, and they said, we'll hold up the traffic and you can get out of here and get to your meeting. And meanwhile, the jaws of life came, and they had to pry the car open to try to get her twisted body out of there and get her into a helicopter to get her to a hospital as quick as possible. Well, when we arrived at the meeting, I just remember sitting out in the parking lot for a minute thinking, I just hope that they've already gotten another speaker, because I am not ready to deal with this. I am not ready to get up in front of everybody and share my testimony and smile and encourage these ladies. We had stayed at this lady's house for a night. We didn't know if she was going to live or not, and it was just horrific what we were all feeling at that time. Went into the meeting, and sure enough, the girls on the committee said, oh, we're so glad you came in time, because right now you're to go on and speak, like within minutes from when I walked in the door. Well, we went in, and sure enough, I was up to speak, and I just remember this supernatural strength coming over me. And I didn't have to look at my notes, and I was able to look at the audience, and God supernaturally gave me a strength that was beyond anything that I had. I remember following that meeting that there were more ladies that gave their heart to the Lord that day than any time I'd ever spoken. There had been about, I think, 170 women that were there in attendance, but it was amazing. And as I look back, I just thought, God, you knew when you called me when I was called to speak at this event. You knew what was going to happen before I even went there. but you supernaturally strengthened me, and it taught me something about you. It was a new experience in the Lord, knowing that no matter how weak we feel, God's strength is far greater than any weakness that we could have. I love these verses that I just read to you. How when I am weak, then I am strong. And that is because we go in God's strength, not our own. So I hope these few words encourage somebody today, and I would love to hear from you. Please comment, share this with your friends if it's encouraged you. And I will be back in about a week talking to you again. So I hope you have an awesome weekend, and we'll talk to you Thursday night again next week. Okay, bye-bye.